This used to be a constant question for us at the farmer's market is I need a today tomato, I'm having a lunch tomato. You and I would kind of just like, you know, have our hands on the board. Taking that question super seriously. You want someone to have a great tomato experience. Tomatoes are expensive.
You don't have to get mealy and weird.
Hey guys, welcome to Amber Waves. I'm Amanda.
I'm Katie. Welcome back to the fields. Normally we're seated at a table in kind of a let's talk about kind of a way, but Amanda had this great idea of it's high summer season, the fields are flourishing, let's get out there, let's do a tasting tour. And tasting tours are one of the things that we do with all ages at the farm, so you're gonna come along with us today to do it. It's gonna be super fun. Okay, so here we are in the middle of one of our many tomato fields. They're staked up high, and we are gonna talk through all the varieties of tomatoes we're growing. We are so passionate about tomatoes. We love tomatoes. You probably love tomatoes too. We're gonna talk about heirlooms. We're gonna talk about cherry tomatoes. We're gonna talk about hybridized tomatoes, beefsteak tomatoes.
So for anything that's one of our major crops that we grow on the farm, our most important crops, both in terms of customer favorites and things that we love to grow, we're trying to have them for as much of the season as we can. So we're standing in the very first round of tomatoes that we had to coddle to get them to this phase. So we're doing them in successions to try to guarantee the longest span of planting that the longest span of harvest that we can. So in order to have tomatoes from mid-July through, we aim for November 1st, always trying to pick a November 1st tomato, that always feels like a victory. We're planting this first round in late April, which is before we've passed the last risk of frost. And so, which is why we really have to coddle these tomatoes. So we're planting them and then immediately covering them with floating row cover that warms them up just a few degrees. So we transplant them out, put wickets over the beds to support the row cover, put the row cover on, and then we take the row cover off to be able to weed and cultivate, and then we drag the row cover back on, and it's this on-off game for this early round of tomatoes. So when this first round is ready, we are just particularly excited about it because it feels like such a labor of love. The subsequent variety or the subsequent rounds after this first round, we don't have to treat as tenderly as we do this first round. So this is a special round.
Because the spring on the east end of Long Island can be cold, wet, wild, unpredictable. So when you're saying coddling, you mean from a farmer's point of view, you mean taking extra care to keep them growing in an environment where they are maybe wouldn't otherwise really like because it's too chilly, it's too wet.
It's definitely a risk to put them out that
So
early.
why even do it early? Like, why even do that?
Well, we're trying to get them as early as we can. We're trying to be first to market. We're trying to get our CSA members to have them early, and we want them as soon in the season as we can. There's this fun thing about succession plantings and farming in a place that has distinct seasons is that a day isn't a day. And by that, I mean a growing day in May is not the same as a growing day in April because April is darker and colder. And so a May growing day is faster. So we plant this first round of tomatoes, my brother's birthday usually, April 29th, and then we plant the next round 3 weeks later. But the second round isn't 3 weeks behind the first round for harvest. It's maybe 5 days after that first round for harvest. So we go back and forth of, does it even matter all this extra work for this extra 5 days? But you know what, when it's mid-July and the other farms who planted early have their first sun golds, yes, it's worth it because we want to have sun golds too at that time.
It's worth it in mid-July. Okay, let's talk about sun golds because this is where we're standing. This is the variety of cherry tomato that usually wins all the taste test awards and that we love to grow, and the plants look so healthy this year. But maybe a fun fact that people don't know about, and I think we can show the example of this here, I'll talk us through it, is that all tomatoes are starting out green, right? And they'll ripen.
Just like all peppers.
Correct. And they're gonna ripen in time through a cluster starting from the back and the bottom of the plant all the way up. So when we're coming through and harvesting these, we're taking the deepest, darkest orange, like my eye is immediately going to here, and here, and your eye is probably going to some in there. So the deepest, darkest, most developed orange, sunny, deep golden color that we can find is what we're taking first. And then we're gonna leave the more yellowed, greenish to yellow for the next day, 2 or 3, that they're gonna come on and they're gonna ripen fast. Okay, we are tomato fanatics because we grow so many varieties of tomatoes. Can you talk about some of your favorite varieties that aren't sun gold and why even bother growing 50 plus varieties of tomatoes?
Well, I remember in our first season, we did not grow a red tomato because we were like, that's so typical. We're gonna be different.
I'm so bored of red tomatoes. That's so regular.
And now we grow a lot. We also grow red tomatoes. We grow a beefsteak tomato, and an August sun ripened beefsteak tomato is extraordinary. So we're growing a few different things. We're growing cherry tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, and then beefsteak tomatoes, and then also sauce tomatoes or Romas. Those are kind of, they run the gamut. So we're growing about 50 different varieties of tomatoes. So tomatoes being a crop, and then many varieties of cherry tomatoes, many varieties of heirlooms, a couple different varieties of beefsteaks, is how we're kind of, spreading out our tomato varieties. And we do that for a few reasons. It creates kind of a colorful interest for our customers and CSA members. It's so beautiful on the tartine that we serve in the kitchen, and it's a great way to keep these varieties going also. So we could really just nerd out about what's going on with hybrids and heirlooms, etc.
That nerdy.
So they're within the tomatoes that we grow, the beefsteaks that we grow, and many of the cherry tomatoes that we grow are hybrid varieties, which means every year they're bred together to create the seed of that. So a sun gold is an example of a hybrid, which means if you save the seed doesn't save true to itself. It'll revert to a parent or some version of a parent. Another type of tomato that we grow is an open pollinated variety. So that just means that if you save the seed from that plant or from that fruit, it'll breed true to itself. So you plant a Cherokee purple, you harvest a Cherokee purple, you save the seed of a Cherokee purple, you plant that seed, you're gonna get another Cherokee purple. You plant a sun gold seed, you're not gonna get a sun gold. You might get something awesome, but you're not gonna get a sun gold. So Cherokee purple is also an interesting example because people talk a lot about heirloom tomatoes. And what does that even mean? So an heirloom tomato is a tomato that has been saved, open pollinated, and the seed has been saved since the early 1940s. Gosh, I should have brushed up on what date it is, if it's 1945 or 1942. But so striped German, for example, is an open pollinated heirloom tomato. If you save a striped German seed, we call striped Germans unicorns on this farm because they're so special.
So challenging.
If you save
to
a
grow
seed,
them.
it'll breed true to seed. So we're growing hybrids, which are bred every year, which is not the same as GMO. They're not genetically modified in a lab. They're just cross-pollinated with each other to create this hybrid. We grow open pollinated varieties, and then we're growing heirlooms, which are essentially old open pollinated varieties that are old, that have been around since the 40s.
Over generations.
Exactly, for about 80 years.
And those have been saved because of prized qualities that they have, unique size, shape, color, and often we've heard at the farmers market when we bring a wide variety tray of heirloom tomatoes where each has its own individual shape. They're not necessarily round, they're kind of misshapen, if you will, but in a way that gives them
character
and beauty, and it's another element to remind you that food comes in all different shapes, colors, and sizes. And I think one of the things I learned about when I was studying what would it be like to be a farmer, I read a statistic or a data point that there are more than 10,000 varieties of tomatoes that exist in the world. And that mind-boggling biodiversity factor was enough to scratch curiosity in a way of like, well, wow, like what else do I not know about food and farming? Like, let's get into it. So I think in the world of, we're eyeing some heirloom tomatoes next to us. So in the world of heirloom tomatoes and heirloom seeds that we choose to grow in general, they are challenging to grow.
They are.
And so let's talk about why they're more challenging and why they're more rewarding.
Right. So an heirloom tomato, it doesn't have any disease resistance bred in. So for, people who are, botanists and who are and plant breeders, they're constantly looking to overcome plant diseases. So there are pathogens in the air. Your plants get sick. So there's early blight and late blight and Phytophthora and a host of, I don't even like to say those words when we're out.
Stay healthy, little ones.
When we're out here. And so the hybrid varieties tend to be more disease resistant. They have disease resistance, it's hybrid of, maybe there's this variety over here that is really resistant to one strain, and this one that's resistant to a fungus, and then they hybridize them, and then they become more disease resistant. One of the things then that can happen is that you start to sacrifice flavor for productivity. So I think the thing that heirlooms have going for them is that they are delicious. And the thing that they don't have going for them is that they're not bred for productivity or disease resistance. And one of the things about saving heirloom seeds is that also you're trying to select seeds from running the gamut of what the fruits look like. And if you're saving Cherokee Purple, you're not just saving the round perfect Cherokee Purples. You're doing you want the whole genetic pool when you're saving them, when you're saving those seeds. We're not a seed saving farm. That's certainly such a niche thing that is so important. We save our own garlic seed. That's the only seed actually that we are saving, because producing crops for seed production is a totally different thing than producing crops for food, because in order to get a tomato seed, you really have to let the tomatoes get gross.
You do.
You essentially let them rot and ferment. And that is not what we are trying to do.
Nope, we are trying to not do that.
We're trying to make a sandwich. Right? We're trying to create mayonnaise vehicles. And to do that, we do not want rotten tomatoes for that reason. So do you have a favorite variety of what we grow?
I think it's the striped German still.
Oh, really?
After all these years. I really love it. It's a yellow variety with threads of red through it and green. So it kind of has this multicolor effect, which kind of like, we can nickname it a tie-dye tomato or the unicorn, because you're like, oh my gosh, I got one per plant and it took me 80 days to grow it. And like, wow, what a trophy of a tomato. So I still love that one. I love the mortgage lifter, mostly because I love the name. And that harkens back to like a ye olde time in my mind of tomato growing. But those are two. I'm really into the golden yellow tomatoes for the low acid, the kind of mildness of it. It's tomato without like that it just has this softness to it.
So do you prefer our sunrise sauce?
I love the sunrise sauce. I'm obsessed with the sunrise sauce. The sunrise sauce is going to go viral this year. I'm speaking that into existence because it's so delicious. And the wow factor.
Okay, well, tell us what it is.
Okay, so sunrise sauce, we grow sauce tomatoes, and those are tomatoes specific, like most familiar, like top of mind that you would be familiar with would be a San Marzano, for example. That has like an iconic name. It's almost a brand name in and of itself. It's a place. It's an Italian.
But it's a variety
tomato.
name.
It's a variety
San Marzano is a very specific variety name.
Right. So so the sunrise sauce tomato is a variety that we grow that is productive, prolific, flavorful, and it is this very similar color to this sun gold cherry tomato, and it creates this, it's like pouring sunshine on your pasta. It just brings you to this gold, it's like this dripping golden luxurious experience that tricks your eye a little bit because you're curious about,
because
like,
you think the flavor isn't going to be that, like you're preparing
not
yourself for
be
butternut squash or something.
Yes, right. It's going to be a little dulled out. No, it's not dulled out.
Yeah.
It's elevated and elegant. So I'm into all things yellow and orange tomatoes right now.
I would go, it's hard for me to ever choose something that's not like the purple green swirl.
Yeah.
There's like the deep, I don't know, I love them. They have this deep color all the way through the center. Although a perfectly ripe beefsteak, or actually even like maybe even 1 day past perfectly ripe.
Okay, so how do you know a perfectly ripe tomato?
Yeah.
Like when people are shopping at the farmer's market, you can definitely ask your farmer, I want a today tomato, I want a tomorrow tomato, I want a yesterday tomato, and that kind of indicates to the farmer the level of ripeness. But how do you indicate to yourself, like, oop, that's just a little past ripe and it's gonna be really juicy and delicious?
I have to tell you that someone in the market the other day, we were looking at melons, and this person said, I was once, gosh, I wish I could remember where they were. Maybe it was these Japanese $400 melons. I can't quite remember. And the farmer who was selling them the melons was like, are you eating this in 1 hour, at lunch, or for dinner? And they were picking melons based on that minute of a time scale, which is crazy. So,
because how were they smelling it?
yeah, they were
They're
smelling it and feeling it. Yeah. So this used to be a constant question for us at the farmer's market is I need a today tomato, I'm having a lunch tomato, I'm having people over on Saturday, so it needs to be a 48 hours out tomato. And so you and I would kind of just like, have our hands on the board of like taking that question super seriously. You want someone to have a great tomato experience. Tomatoes are expensive.
You don't have to
Not
get
expensive
mealy
enough.
and weird. No, i.e. $64 tomato. Everyone give it a read.
So you're judging based on firmness, but before everybody races out to the farmer's market or the grocery store and squeezes the shit out of a tomato, you can just give it like the softest little press. Like you have a newborn baby, how hard are you going to press on their forehead? That's how hard you press on a tomato. I'm not even going to say the forehead, like the back part that's soft. That's how hard you press. So and it's only that.
Gentle.
And the skin will tell you, it'll push back. It'll either be extremely firm or it'll just give the scotiest of scocious.
Right, you want a slight give.
Just a slight give. So really what we're looking at is color development all the way through. So, they ripen starting at the bottom and then moving to the shoulders. So is the color fully developed from the bottom of the tomato all the way through the shoulders? And then additionally, how soft is it? How much give is there? And you want a today tomato, you want there to be a little bit of give. So you can do this, but a farmer might give you like the stink eye about it. You see signs at farm stands being like, don't squeeze these peaches, don't squeeze these. So just be so gentle, because if you squeeze one too hard and bruise it, that farmer can't sell it. So so just be thoughtful about that. So actually one of the things that we do, we pick cherry tomatoes. We're talking too long about tomatoes. We're gonna move on, but we love them
Let's
so
move
much.
on from tomatoes.
But we're gonna tell you one more thing.
We're gonna turn into a ratatouille tour.
Okay, so we are picking cherry tomatoes, peak of ripeness, full color, peak of ripeness. That's when you want a cherry tomato. A full-size slicer, so either a beefsteak or an heirloom, you actually want to pick it a little firmer, because here's the thing that happens to a tomato in the field as soon as it's almost ready. Everyone else is trying to get it too, and by everyone else I mean birds, squirrels, bugs, like everybody's trying to get it. And so you have the privilege of picking that tomato maybe a few days out from ripeness and leaving it on your counter, and it will ripen beautifully and gloriously just as it would on the plant. As long as the color is fully developed but it's still pretty firm, that's a great time to take it. And another pro tip before we move on.
You mean if you're growing tomatoes
Yes, you're growing
in your
tomatoes.
backyard garden,
Yes.
you can take them a little early. The color will still develop, the flavor will still develop.
Not totally green.
Off vine.
Yeah, but
In your kitchen, never in the refrigerator.
Never in the refrigerator.
Never in the refrigerator.
No.
You got to keep those babies room temperature minimum.
You know, it would be lovely if you had an air-conditioned pantry that you kept at about 61 degrees. But if you don't have that, just your counter. Your counter's fine.
fine.
The other pro tip that I just want everyone in America to know about is that the strongest part of a tomato is the tomato's shoulders. Kind of like
What do you mean by shoulders?
Okay, the shoulders, so the top of the tomato.
Think of your anatomy.
Yeah, exactly. Think of your anatomy. So you want, that's the strongest part of the tomato. The tomato will last absolutely the longest stored upside down. Do not put a tomato on its butt on your counter. It's the weakest part. It's it's the top of the baby's head. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Put it upside down where those strong shoulders are, and it'll be beautiful.
Stem side down.
Stem side down,
Okay,
please.
That's a great pro tip. I love that.
Okay. Why is the reason that we don't refrigerate a tomato?
I don't refrigerate a tomato because once it goes into that cold climate, knowing that it was picked at almost peak ripeness for eating.
In 80-degree weather, yeah.
Yeah, it can just stay there and it's gonna hold its texture and flavor and it's gonna remain sweet. Tomatoes that are grown off season and that are shipped long distances that inherently go into refrigeration are picked when they are nearly rock hard, kind of like you would think of it, almost like an apple. But if you're shopping locally, seasonally, or you're getting tomatoes through your CSA, the best way to maintain the flavor and the texture of the tomato for enjoyment, for maximum enjoyment, is room temperature.
Yes. So I have to tell you, I don't know if you remember this. We got an email a few years ago, but from a customer who's a well-known author. I'm not going to say their name right now, who was pretty concerned because he saw that there was a tomato that was sweating as if it had been refrigerated. And he just wanted to know if we knew that you weren't supposed to refrigerate tomatoes, and asked me, like, basically, what is up with that? And I was so thrilled to tell him that we maintain a separate cooler exclusively for tomatoes at tomato temperature at 60 degrees. And so, of course, 60 is cooler than air ambient temperature at 80. They do sweat when they first come out. But that is how we are storing our tomatoes at 60 degrees.
As opposed to your refrigerator at home is in the 30s.
Exactly.
So, which is like borderline.
Yeah, don't do
It'll
that.
just crush it.
Yeah,
Maybe if you have a wine fridge that you can adjust the temperature to 60.
That's a really good idea.
Oh my gosh. Tomato fridge, wine fridge, get your wine, get your tomatoes,
Yeah,
get your
because
party
your
started.
rosé for the summer has to be in the regular fridge anyway because you need it cooler. So there's space.
So there's you opened it up.
There's space.
Okay, wow, welcome to our
Husk cherry forest.
tomatoes cousin.
Tomatoes cousin. Tomatoes open pollinated cousin. Of all the things that we find volunteering around the farm, so we call a volunteer, it's basically an intentional crop that's planted in the wrong spot. And we find more husk cherry volunteers than any other thing. They're
prolific.
Just so
They'll
prolific.
reseed themselves. Well,
and the birds.
Because we let them drop to the ground. So inherently the
Right.
seed is falling to the soil.
But we find them all over the place. I mean, like, a mile from where they were planted last year because the birds move the seed around, which is just such a cool detail. So a husk cherry is a tomato cousin, and people always want to tell us what they think it tastes like. So it's a really cool thing to introduce a new flavor to an adult. You can introduce new flavors to kids all the time. We do it every day. But when you have an adult try something they've never tried before, they are so excited to tell you what else it tastes like. Like, they must tell you. I did this the other day on a tour, and without fail, absolutely, this guy was like, I must tell you what this tastes like.
What did he say?
He said, what did he say? Boy, I've just heard so many.
Well, that's what's interesting about the flavor profile of this fruit is that it has so many different nuances for anyone's palate. Someone once said to me, it tastes like a sandwich. Really? That singular fruit to you tastes like a sandwich?
Because it's everything. Because it's this mix. I think that he said, grape melon.
I get that.
I think of pineapple grape.
I feel the tropical vibe too.
It feels more pineapple than grape. It's more like the mouthfeel that feels like a grape. So these are so fun. If you only have one pot in your yard and you just want to grow something so fun for either just yourself or your kids or just to show off in front of your friends, if you have a rooftop, if you have a whatever, grow a husk cherry plant. It's so fun.
They're relatively easy and straightforward to grow.
It's a plant that a cucumber plant does not want to live.
No.
It's
Did
not
you see
trying
this
to
Jimmy
live.
Fallon thing with the cucumber he's growing in his backyard?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you about it
later.
later.
It's suicidal because that's how cucumbers are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who advised him to grow?
No, don't start there. No, start here.
Start with husk
if
cherries.
if you haven't done this before.
Yeah. Okay.
So we know they're
the
ready.
plants are also beautiful too.
Well, and I'm going to tell you.
big
You
are
can
these?
already see what we did differently this year.
I do.
Uh-huh.
Some support.
Everyone needs a little lift.
That's right. Get
So,
your
we know.
husk cherry skims on.
We know. There's secret.
So cagey.
There's secret netting and compression wear underneath here. That's really giving them that's why they look like this.
Okay,
It's kind of what a tomato cage is, actually. But we know they're ready when they hit the ground. So there's also, if you're growing them at home, there's no guesswork. It's ready when it falls. You don't have to be like, is this ready? Did it fall? No, then no. Did it fall? Yes, then yes. So we love that.
Another alternative name for this is ground cherry.
ground cherry, yeah,
or
exactly.
Cape gooseberry. It goes by a couple different names. And also in a few different cultures has a couple different names. But
Yes.
anyways, ground cherry, because when it's ready, it's falling to the ground.
Exactly. So it comes in this convenient little wrapper, which is so conveniently biodegradable. You just get rid of it.
Right.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. I see why he said grape melon, actually. I don't think I've had one since he told me that.
Okay, and I broke the rule and I selected mine
Yeah.
with a yellow husk, but it's not quite ready.
It's weird to have you break a rule.
It's not. Thank you for that. So you can eat it at this stage, and it does taste different than the stage that you were just eating at. So do you remember when we have this amazing friend named Paola Malman, and she made a husk cherry chutney for us?
So labor intensive because it takes a long time to gather these.
Right. So you're gathering them, and then you're opening the package, the paper lantern, and you're slicing them in half. And then, well, we'll have to just have her on because she's an amazing chef. But I don't know what she did to turn it into a chutney, but it was this explosive, curious flavor paired on a cheese board that was so good. So you can eat these raw, or you can cook with them.
Yes.
I'll cook with them this
They
week.
also
and
stay
we'll do-
good on your counter like forever, like months.
like months.
They're basically non-perishable. It's wild.
Yeah, they're.
I mean, it's weird.
they're-
Sometimes you find one floating around in a place where it shouldn't be, and you're like,
You're like, well, it's December, so you've been here a minute.
but you've been in your wrapper this whole time, protected from the elements. It's probably fine.
Yeah, what a gift.
So we have never had husk cherry plants look like this before. I'm sure you're astounded.
I am so excited by
So
it
they
because
are-
the plants look healthy. I see so
many flowers.
So on the way.
As we're standing here, they're at almost shoulder height. And so we've always grown them just kind of creeping along the ground. And what we learned, this is also a good field, but what we learned is that, gosh, they love going up. Not unlike a cucumber, that they actually are much happier supported. It seems like they're much less stressed out. And having them be in the Skims shapewear of growing, they're up and high and tight, and so it's much easier for the crew to get in below the plants and scoop up the ones that are ready. Otherwise, I mean, you remember like the days of crawling around after a rain and picking up the branches and trying to scoop in between, and then you have leaves and other stuff down, and it's just, this is so much, it's light and airy down there. We love this. We will always grow them like this going forward.
Yeah, I remember dreaming up farm hacks for ourselves of how can we tie them up? How can we net them?
Yeah.
How can we make it easier for harvesting? It's still difficult harvesting. You have to crawl on your hands and knees and reach under to the center of the plant and scoop them along. So it's not nothing, but
It's still hard, just not possible.
right. It's possible, and they're delicious. So where can you find these? Because you cannot find these commercially available in grocery stores
No,
right
but,
now. So
but
it's just
farmers
through
have them
CSA.
right now at farmers markets. You'll definitely be able to find them, and you might like think that the sticker shock is a lot because
Well, they're very lightweight.
So they're
they're very light in weight, and they'll sell them by half pints or pints, and maybe, I don't know, pricing is different at every farmer's market. But you can always ask a farmer at a market to try something, and they will, if you see something that you've never tried before or new, and this is often one of those things, customers would ask us, what is that? What is that? And you try it, you open it, but oh my gosh, this fun new experience, I'll buy them. So good for the farmer because it boosts sales, but good for the eater because you can try a new food.
I do remember in the early, of course you remember this, in the early days of the farmer's market when we had a bowl of husk cherries and it said, husk cherry, try one. And then it was this thing of everyone walking by us and with this chorus of, what's a husk cherry? What's a husk cherry? What's a husk cherry? What's a husk cherry? To the point where you just like start to kind of have a twitch about it. So I think then a sign, it was like, it's the tomato's cousin. Please try one. Tell us what it tastes like. Because people are just, they're...
As soon as you also encourage someone to try something and it piques their curiosity, that's what's fun about a CSA, that's what's fun about a farmer's market, is you can have a dialogue with the farmer or have a fun experience. While you're shopping.
Do you remember what the dialogue of the person who was at the other side of us at the farmer's market in those early years?
You got ribs?
You guys like ribs?
You guys like ribs? You got any ribs? You got ribs? So we were there slinging vegetables, all for 4 hours straight, selling as many vegetables as we could.
Like a barbecue sauce.
You got
sort of
ribs?
Situation.
You guys like ribs?
You guys like ribs?
You want ribs? You cooking ribs tonight? You want to grill ribs?
It's a lot.
We sold a lot of vegetable complement to his ribs.
How there's not like a best in show film that is of the people at
a
the
farmer's market.
And actually, there's you know what?
the
There's nothing like on
characters.
those handful of Montauk weekends where it's the farmer's market and it transitions into the craft and art fair, and the farmer's market people are taking down their tents, and it's like a
Can
vibe.
somebody get Christopher Guest on the line and tell him this is his next film? It is such a good idea.
There's the vibe of the farmers who are breaking down, and then it's the art fair people coming in, and it is like
Craft.
it's craft.
Meets
It's
food
it's
and
like
art.
You cannot. It's like these people are straight out of Central Casting, like both the farmers that we're a part of.
Yes, I know,
And the crafts
definitely.
people
Yeah.
that are adjacent to us. So I'm certainly not throwing any shade, but like there are some personalities. So
Which makes it super fun.
yeah, yes, made it so fun.